Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Welcome to WCS America Season 3, the finals, presented by Newegg. I'm your host, Joshua Gray. It's a pleasure to be here. Today, we crown a champion in America. The first place prize, $25,000, 2,000 WCS points. And today, we will know the seeding for BlizzCon. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our players. First up, making his return to the round of 4, he is the great Axiom Hope. Give it up for Hart. His opponent in the semifinals, the #1 performer in WCS for this season. He is here to defend his throne. He is HyuN. Our next player was a 2013 WCS America season champion, loved by his fans and named Captain America. He is Polt. And his opponent in the semifinals, whose campaign train of domination has no brakes. He is the Red Bull champion. Give it up for Bomber. Let us know who you're rooting for on social media, hashtag WCS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The semifinals are about to begin. It's my pleasure to kick on over to the commentators, Nathanius and Rotterdam. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Josh. And indeed, this is it. It's been a long season. We started quite a while ago, Nate. We had a little bit of a break between the amazing round of 32 we had and also the pretty awesome round of 16. Then again, we took a couple of weeks, and now we're here. Yesterday was pretty damn good, I'd say.
Yeah, we had, especially towards the end, things got really crazy with our matches, of course. We came in with 6 Koreans and 2 Canadian players. So far, Koreans had a lot of success. We have all 3 players that came into this top 8 eliminated that were potentially going to BlizzCon if they won this tournament. That's Pig Baby, Scarlet, and Hero. But it's still a good day of games either way.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that this is not really relevant to BlizzCon anymore, because even though if Hart wins, he won't make it. But if any of the other wins, or even the way that the semifinals play out, can have a huge impact on the top 16 bracket. So I'm pretty sure some of the absolute best players in the world, Nate, will be watching today's broadcast as well, because of course they want to know as soon as possible who they're going up against. There will be a lot of theory crafting throughout the day about who is going to play who at BlizzCon, but of course most of the eyes will just be at this tournament, because yes, BlizzCon is the biggest final of the year, but there is still a lot of money on the line here. $25,000 for first place prize, and of course, Nate, you know, you have 3 superstars. And then you have one guy that's also been around forever, and of course I'm talking about Hart. He's coming in as an underdog, but if there's ever been a tournament where I feel this could be very well Hart's tournament, I really feel that this is the day.
This is his time. Yes. Hart has had a great year at WCS. He managed to come through our top 8 bracket, of course. As you guys can see now, he defeated Scarlet in the quarterfinal yesterday in a convincing fashion. Yeah. His Terran versus Zerg has been very, very solid pretty much all year from what we've seen.
Yep, we fell in love with his TvZ, and yesterday he even showed us a different side of his Terran vs Zerg, and he's going to need that now again as he's going up against HyuN. We'll talk more about that matchup real soon, of course. On the bottom side of the bracket, we had both Protoss players being eliminated. Bomber took out Pig Baby. He got a sweet revenge. The revenge that he was aiming for after losing in the grand final of Season 2. And Polt made a remarkable comeback against Hero after Hero played, without a shadow of a doubt, his best StarCraft in 6 or 7 or 8 months. He was up 2-0, he played fantastic, but Polt just shows once more why he is a player that has won over $300,000 playing this game. he knows how to make comebacks.
Yeah, Hero played phenomenally well. Really can't say enough good words about those first two games that he brought forward. And Paul is just, he's a guy that when he's down and out, that's when he wins. And you could really see how much everybody was taking these games seriously with Bomber versus Pig Baby especially. We saw Bomber we saw him open Reaper. He scanned.
He killed an observer, Nate.
He looked for things that his opponent was doing rather than just building 3 command centers. So he showed a completely different Bomber yesterday as well.
Yep. Of course, the first series of the day is going to be HyuN versus HyuN. Now, HyuN, as Clutch already said, he was the champion of WCS America 2014 Season 1. He has won a DreamHack as well, and overall, he has had so many high tournament finishes. There's almost no tournament that HyuN doesn't go to, and he gets either top 8 or top 4 very often, and even multiple second place finishes throughout his career. Hard, in 2012, he had a couple of top 4 finishes. He never got to the grand final of a Premier League tournament. Last season, he came close. In Season 2 of WCS America, Hard had his best performance in a very long time. He made it to the semifinals, but going up against the Terran, did he play Paul? No, he played Bomber, right? Yeah, he played Bomber in the semifinals. Yeah. And was just like, we know that this TvT was good, but Bomber just carried so much experience and he was more familiar with the stage, still playing semifinals. Hard wasn't able to pull through. This time, however, if it's ever going to happen for Hard, at least still in this year, it has to happen right here.
Yeah, I still think back to that series. I won't forget because it happened to both Hart and Polt trying to go for the proxy builds on Overgrowth against Bomber, and we thought that Bomber's like, okay, well, this build is bad for him because he doesn't have many units, and Bomber he manages to find a way to win anyway because that's kind of what Bomber does. But Hart has shown us a very big step up in his skill, especially compared to the predictable styles that he played, years prior to this.
Yeah, it's really funny how it went with his career, because in 2012 he was a solid tournament player, like I said, top 4 at a couple of MLGs, and it looked like he was almost like this was his level, like we know that Hard is good, but he's not going to make the next step, and then a lot of players plateau, or they even fall off, and he did fall off a little bit in the later stages of 2012, early 2013, and it almost felt that this was going to be it for Hard's career, but boy oh boy did he make a comeback, and now suddenly we're looking at a better Hard than we have ever seen. Going up in this matchup as well. Yesterday we were really excited to see him go up against Scarlet. We were hoping that we could see some of those magnificent splits that we know that he's capable of, but often he didn't even really need it. He just put himself in such good positions that obviously he was still controlling his units well, but he just had more stuff. Now today against HyuN, a true macro god, that's going to be most likely a little different.
Yeah, the variety he showed in yesterday's series against Scarlet will be very important against HyuN, who will punish anything that he can. And then you look at our second semifinal, man. We've had this match a few times throughout the Battleground series in 2014.
Yep.
Bomber up against Paul. Tell you what, one of these guys has been on a very, despite the WCS ranks, one of them's had a lot more success against the other.
Yeah, it's really funny if you go through the history. Of course, these are two old-school Terran players. They've been around for pretty much as long as our competitive scene has been around. You could say maybe it took them half a year before they truly rose to the top, but since early 2011, these two guys have been running into each other. They used the trade series back and forth. Then early 2013, it looked like Polt had Bomber's number after defeated him twice back-to-back, and he also defeated him at Lone Star Clash, but that was already a really close victory. That was somewhere early May. Polt defeated Bomber semi-final 3-2. But it felt like Bomber should have won that series. I casted those TvTs, and in multiple games I was like, this should have been Bomber's game, but Polt, comeback boy, he was making comebacks once more. But since then, Polt has lost against Bomber at the Battlegrounds Atlanta Grand Final, and of course very recently, Polt was the only player to take 2 maps off Bomber at the Battlegrounds DC, but 2 maps wasn't enough in a best of 5.
Yeah, Bomber showed some fantastic Terran versus Terran in Battlegrounds DC, not only defeating Polt, after what seemed, it seemed like he was getting on a slippery slope. He dropped 2 maps in a span of about 6 minutes to him. But then we saw him 4-0 Cure in the grand final, something that I don't think anybody was really expecting. And
you're not supposed to 4-0 GSL Code as semi-finalist, Nate.
It doesn't work like that.
Especially not if you play in WCS America, because that's Code S, Nate.
Yeah, well, Codes got turned up, let's just say that.
All right, now if you somehow missed yesterday, we threw together a small highlight package of some of the amazing things that you missed in WCS America Grand Finals Day 1. Lots of great moments yesterday, and of course we hope that today will be the same or even better. Perhaps at the end of the day, Nate, we can make a couple of highlight videos about some of those splits that Hard will see us, or maybe we're going to see some crazy stuff from HyuN, maybe some burrowed banelings, maybe that auto unit, Nate, that you get with when you press the R button, I believe. Because HyuN does it every now and then, right?
It rhymes with coach, I think. Maybe.
Well, HyuN doesn't have to fly coach, that's for sure, because of the roach.
You don't wear it quite like a brooch, but it's they do get all over the place, that's for sure.
These two players are pretty much good to go for their first semi-final. Of course, we are still playing a best of 5, so that means both players have one map veto. HyuN is going to veto that wing. Nate, talk to me.
I mean, Hart had a lot of success on this map. We talked about it. He was able to defeat Scarlet on it when he played her earlier on in the round of 32. And then, of course, we didn't even end up really seeing it a lot yesterday. So I'm not super surprised by this. Roaches are fantastic. Roach builds are incredible on Foxtrot Labs. So that being vetoed is like you kind of have to veto that map against HyuN, because there's so many different places that he can attack your base from.
The only thing I'm a tiny bit surprised about the Deadwing veto is that it's a very large map. HyuN does love to run around with lots of units, so it is a good map to counterattack, because if Terran is on the other side of the map, it's easy to intercept reinforcements.
I just think for a 4-base Terran, once you have that usually only 1 point of entry to your base, it's a lot easier to defend. And Terran, more so than Protoss, I think, versus very heavy aggressive styles from Zerg, can kind of force the games out a bit longer. But it is an interesting choice.
We're going to start things off on Overgrove, and the second map is going to be Nimbus, and we'll just take it from there. Which, you know, Overgrove, starting on Overgrove, I guess let's just start where we're most comfortable, right?
When we first saw Nimbus come into the map pool for Season 3 of WCS, it was right around the time that Battlegrounds Atlanta had happened. And we weren't really sure what to think of the map. It was one of those few maps with the in-base expansions, and historically, people haven't liked those maps quite as much, but I think Nimbus has been great for Terran versus Zerg this season. Of course, Overgrowth, the map to start on, has been, you know, I love using this term that Litad brought up, say not the least favorite map of every player, because certainly it's not your favorite when HyuN's roaches can get to your base very quickly either.
I mean, that's just the approach that you need to have on everything when you kind of hate the world, like Litad does. He's like, well, I do not really like Overgrowth, but I also don't hate it. So.
Is there a map you do like? He's like, not really.
Now, Overgrove is a map where we've seen HyuN a lot in the past, or at least very often we've seen him aiming towards those roach builds that he loves. These two players have a little bit of history within each other, within WCS America with each other as well. So they played against each other in both Season 1 and Season 2. Season 1, HyuN was able to win 2-0 using roaches. Season 2, it was a little closer. HyuN did win 2-1. But the games were already a lot closer. But let's not forget, Nate, those were played in a different day and age of TvZ. The Widowmines were not as strong as they are right now. And Widowmines is traditionally a unit that Hard loves to use in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard to have those mixed in now for those mid-late games. HyuN's roach plays that, you know, we can talk all day about. They're strong, yes, they're very powerful. But if you can get to the long game, if you can get that, you can get up to a 3-base setup versus a roach player without taking too much damage, and they don't have things like Mutalisks, they don't have those upgrades, definitely don't have Hive Tech. That's when the Terran can really start to bully a player like this. So for Hart, it's all about controlling what goes on in the early game. Some Terran players like to go for a little bit of damage to make it so that you can't afford to build a lot of roaches, or you see plays like just super defensive, opening with tanks, bomber style, basically saying, you will not kill me.
Now this also goes back a little bit to what I was talking about yesterday. You know, we as StarCraft 2 fans were incredibly spoiled. Almost every single weekend there is a big tournament. We just sit down, we watch the games casually, and there's really no pressure on us because we just hope that we get entertained. However, for a player like Hart, this is a unique opportunity. This is an opportunity like, yes, he was here last season, but other than that, it doesn't happen very often for him. If you just compare the careers of these two players, Hart has collected roughly $40,000 playing this game. Now, that's obviously not bad, but if you compare it to HyuN, he has made over $200,000 most likely after this tournament. And that just goes to show that HyuN, yeah, he plays semifinals pretty often. He knows how it is. He knows how it feels. For Hart, I would almost say this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He's been playing this game for 3-4 years now as a professional player. He's still waiting for that first grand final tournament experience. And he is close, Nate. All that's between him right now and his first grand final of a Premier League StarCraft 2 tournament is HyuN in his favorite matchup. Like, it's going to be difficult. HyuN is the #1 ranked WCS player in the world. But you cannot ask for more than play your favorite matchup in the semifinals. That's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, it's such a huge weight to have on you as the only player in this top 4 to not have any championships under your belt. Hart's fighting for a lot more when we look at the top 8 from yesterday. players going for WCS rankings, seeding, actually qualifying for BlizzCon. Heart, it's all about, you know, for him, the pride, the honor. You're a professional StarCraft 2 player. You've been in the scene for a very long time. You've beaten lots of good players. But guys like this are the reason why you don't have those championships, because HyuN he's a monster.
Yep, you see there as well, 6th round of 8 appearance in 2014 Premier League tournaments. 2013 was a very successful year for HyuN as well. He knows quarterfinals and semifinals like no other. He makes it to the finals so often. He definitely has more second place finishes than first, but he did win WCS America Premier League Season 1. He won the DreamHack last year. For him, you could almost say it's another day at the office. For Hart, this could truly be a life-changing experience. You know, maybe in a few years, if he moves away from StarCraft 2, he can always look back, and he will look back at it. All right, I did win that one big tournament I could have won, or maybe I did win WCS America Premier League Season 3. It's now, or, you know, at least not for another 4 or 5 months for Hart. That's just the way it is. He really needs to shine right there. For HyuN,
in that period of time, so much can change.
Yep.
The way, you know, the maps for Season 1 next year could be very different as far as the setups go.
The balance of the game can be different. You know, it could be tough times again for Terran. Right now, needless to say, things are looking up. The Terrans have been doing well. But this guy, you know, it doesn't really matter what's going on with Terran. He will always be good in this matchup just because of his control. And for HyuN, I guess you could say the same, just because of his godlike macro and his excellent ability to read the game, because he too, like no other, knows how to win games.
Yeah, that's right. This guy has just been all over the world. The last 2 years have been incredible for him. Your first semi-finalist today here at WCS America Premier League. In the top right, the Red Zerg from Team Rocket, it is HyuN.
Alrighty, we have a small pause, as I think Hart needs to turn up his noise cancelling sound, wants to make sure that he won't be distracted at all. You know, this is perhaps one of those things, just wants to make sure everything is 100% correct. I spoke a little bit with Hart this morning when he walked in the studio. I was like, how do you feel? He's like, I feel really good. I was like, does it feel like a special day? He's like, yes. He's like, I think I can do it. And that has been different as well, because most of these players, of course, you always go into a tournament with the mentality that you want to do well, but unless you're like a Stefano or a Bomber, then often you know which players you can or cannot defeat. Like those guys think they can defeat everybody on any given day. Like Stefano's like, well, I was out till 8 a.m., but I think I will win. It's like, no, Elias, you should sleep.
Well, there have been times when he has done that.
Yes.
So
I guess he had a solid point, but for Hart, he knows as well that this could be his tournament finally.
Yeah, this could be that point where you finally reach, you know, not necessarily a peak, but a very high point that allows you to carry on forward with your next couple of tournaments. Really keeps you motivated and practicing a lot. But you take a defeat at this point, you're so close, it can be demotivating for a player, and you say, well, okay, maybe I'll just take a little bit of time off, and the next tournament rolls around and you're not quite as sharp as you were, and things just, you know, they don't end up rolling together.
Yep, and of course, this is not a weekend tournament. This is a tournament these players have been participating in for over 2 months now. You play a round of 32, then you fly all the way to America to compete in the round of 16, and from that point on, you know, you just look forward to the round of 8. As soon as the bracket is out, you start preparing, and of course, you start theory crafting as well. All right, if I make it past Scarlet, who do I play in the semifinals? Well, there's a good chance I'll play HyuN. Wait, that's another Zerg. You know, then I'm just, if I would make it past that, I am in the final for the first time in my career. But HyuN, he is lovable, he's friendly, he's always happy, but he's also the destroyer of dreams for so many StarCraft 2 players around the world.
Oh, yeah. Probably one of the last people you don't want to get matched against. Of course, we have the game. We're going back in. It's all good now, Roddy.
It is. So over here in the left bottom side of Overgrowth for the first game of today. Give it up for Axiom's Hart.
The least accomplished player in the top 4, but definitely is good enough to compete with the rest of the players here.
Couldn't agree more. And of course, like you mentioned already yesterday, HyuN does have the advantage that he was able to watch Hart go up against Scarlet. Those were 3 games that he could have taken some notes from, but Hart showed a lot of variety in his playstyle. HyuN opening up with the spawning pool as well. We were even talking about this morning. This is becoming more and more common these days, isn't it, Nate?
Yeah, lots of Zerg players have been opening up with 15 supply spawning pools. It's not fast enough to be aggressive in any real way against a Terran player. You're not going to generally cancel any command centers, pick off SCVs.
This is different though, Nate.
The gas is a bit of a change up. Normally, you get this spawning pool just so you can have a fast queen out. It'll stop any Reapers, maybe even a proxy barracks. This map, though, since it's not as common, might be why HyuN is going for the gas on top of this, so he can defend a potential attack and go for a big counter, or maybe even just make a really fast roach push.
Yeah, he could try to do something with a big swell of links as well and just try to hide it, something that I saw Snoot do a couple of times. It's a little bit risky because you're sort of rolling the dice. This Reaper is going to be very important for Hard because you want to scout this, you want to identify like, hey, that's a pretty quick speed for my opponent. That's a little quicker than I would normally expect it. Of course, you don't want to overreact against it either. You don't want to just throw down 2 or 3 bunkers immediately.
Yeah. Of course, big shout out to those of you throwing out tweets. This guy, Litan, apparently woke up pretty early to get to watch this. Oh, he has to wake up early. Well, that's going to make life difficult. He gave you a heart, though. I'm not high enough on his list anymore.
If he listens through the entire cast, I'm not sure if I get a heart at the end of the day. But that's okay. I always make it up to HyuN.
A couple lings are going to swing around the side as the Reaper makes its way across the map. Overlord will see the direction that it comes in from, but the reactor is not done just yet, so there's no units back home. If you can kill the SCV building this command center, even if you can't cancel it, but it is really, really annoying to deal with.
Yeah, especially because the reactor is going down right now, so that means no Marines. This is already a little bit frustrating for Hard. We look at the minimap, we see that the Reaper is making his way across the map. So it's not going to take too long. You just want to keep that SCV alive. There's really no need to lose that SCV. Don't be too greedy. And so far, Hard is, rather safe than sorry. He's not trying to be greedy. It will take a little bit of damage, but it won't die. Command center delayed for 10-15 seconds. But let's not forget that Reaper did not hop into the main base yet. And that is something that's pretty important to mention. Because right now, Hard doesn't know if this was just a pull first with a later gas or if this speed is going to be relatively quick. Because if HyuN makes a big swell of links and he surrounds the first 2 Hellions that are out on the map, things could get pretty complicated.
Typically, when you see this type of play, you're like, okay, well, he went for a 15 supply pool, but these lings didn't come fast enough that I should be really concerned about anything, whereas some other Zergs have been going for 14 gas, 14 pool, getting a little bit more aggressive. Hart doesn't expect too much. I mean, we know that nothing is coming. There's not a huge swell of lings, 6 being added right now, but that's not really enough to threaten a Reaper and 2 Hellions.
Nope. Most likely not. HyuN just drone up pretty heavily behind this. HyuN does also not know about this relatively quick starport, but most of the time HyuN just kind of covers his tracks everywhere. He's not up to 3 bases yet. I think the drone was just heading out. I was like, hey, it's about time for that 3rd hatch, but all good, Nate. Everything is standard in Zergland.
Yeah, everything is still pretty normal in this game. There's nothing super crazy, and we're starting to see a little bit closer, actually, to what Hart did, I believe, on this map against Scarlet. He's taken that 2nd refinery. This is a setup for the very popular Marine drop with the Hellion run-by, but maybe he starts that armory as he works his way out of his base, and we see a much bigger commitment from the Axiom Terran. This Baneling Nest will be key in defending since, for a player like HyuN, he doesn't actually have a Roach Horn.
Nope. There's a huge difference between the game that Hard played yesterday against Scarlet and the one that he's currently playing. I really felt in that game without a Roach Horn, it would have been extremely difficult for Scarlet to defend what Hard was doing. But this is a different variant, though. It's less Hellions, there's no armory, so it's not going to be Hellbats. So I think HyuN is going to be more than fine with skipping out the Roach Horn. I believe most of the Zerglings are a little bit out of position, though. So if these 4 Hellions can rack up a couple of drone kills, that would be very nice for Hard. Nah, here come the Hellions.
Queens are well placed. The Zerglings will push him back, and because he only went for this drop, he didn't actually bring any of the Marines or any of the other Hellions from back home for that matter. Can't put on pressure from enough points to really pull HyuN apart. So
yeah, he still has 8 Hellions, which is that's different than what we normally see, because 6 is pretty much the max, but a lot of Terrans in this day and age, if they don't try to make some crazy Hellbat push, they stop at 4 Hellions. So I still have the feeling that Hard do wants to accomplish something with maybe a big follow-up, but maybe he's going to try to send 4 Hellions towards the natural and then 4 Hellions in the main base. He definitely wants to get something done with this, though, Nate, because that's 800 minerals that he invested in Hellions. That's a few more than you normally do.
I mean, Hellions are good for map control, but in a situation like this, you get that medevac too. You really want to make something happen. Hellions run by the spine. The Queen's getting some hits. There's not too many drones here, but killing these...
That's enough, though.
It's something.
Yeah, that's more than enough. If he gets these 4 or 5 drones so far, he got 4, I believe, a few more being transferred. Of course, the Hellions are still in the main as well. There is an Overlord that has vision of it. The Zerglings and Banelings are a little bit out of position, but for now, HyuN won't take too much damage. Overall, yeah, pretty well handled by both sides. 8 drones. I think it's acceptable.
Yeah,
but
Hart's just trying to get something back for the investment that he's put in, right? But when we look at all the other things, the big medevac production isn't ready to kick off just yet. Stim is finishing, but the upgrades are similarly timed. And before the big drops come in, I still think there might be a window now, as the medevac production should start soon before this Spire completes.
I mean, this is most likely going to come down to that first big engagement when there is a bunch of stint Marines and there are a couple of medevacs and maybe a Widow Mine or 2 or 3.
Well, just look at this. The Hellions still on the left side, but he's brought actually another drop full of 8 Marines. Thankfully, those Banelings are still in the main base, but this could do a lot.
These Hellions can get a juicy shot off on these Banelings.
Yeah, if he can pick the Banelings off, this changes everything.
No, it's too tight. Not enough room to maneuver those Marines around for now. It's going to get close, but basically with a situation like this, HyuN is truly relying on Zerglings and Banelings in defending that first big push. So it will all come down to the engagement. HyuN, of course, a master in engagements as well. Otherwise, you won't be as successful as he actually is.
Hell, he's trying to jump a Marine directly on the Baneling. It's not a bad trade.
Unless you're the Marine.
Well, sometimes when you're flying over a bunch of Banelings, Commander's like, you got to jump into that point.
Yeah.
Me?
Alright, so like you mentioned, the 1-1 upgrades are pretty much even. There is no Spire yet. I do expect the Spire to go down pretty soon. And then we do indeed see the Spire go down, but these Mutalisks are late. Infestation Pit goes down at the same time as well. That's sort of interesting, Nate.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the feeling that he's just going to be able to rush up to Hive later on, so I kind of wonder what he wants to do with that.
It's the fact that there's no Roach One. He's trying to just play this out, what's seemingly super standard, but you don't have your Baneling speed
without Baneling speed against Hart, things could get tricky though, but we are on creep, so these Zerglings and Banelings are very fast.
Yeah, he does use most of the Banelings. There's still Marines left over. This is where Hart splits. And
there
his
are
army
Marines
control.
left over. There are so many Marines left over, Nate. HyuN is in a lot of trouble now.
Yeah,
like, what do you do against this?
You kill the Banelings, you still have Marines and medevacs. There's not really a whole lot that you can do. 8 Banelings are being made. I can't even see... Okay, they're in the main bases where they're being produced.
Oh, but this Baneling nest is taking a lot of damage now as well. There are a few Widow Mines going down. Okay, they're shooting at the cocoons. That's unfortunate, but no Baneling speed for the upcoming minutes. So even if HyuN defends here, the next wave is going to get even more difficult. But I don't even think he's going to defend here.
He target fires,
ridiculous.
Target fires every single Baneling. Just really good at control and aggression. Hart built from the very beginning of this game with those Hellions trying to drop, bringing the Marines for the follow-up drop, pushing to third base. He's been consistently aggressive, and it's worked out very nicely for him. He's in the third base, too, just killing drones.
This is insane. Look at the units lost resource step as well. Only 2,100 resources lost for Hart against 7,000 for HyuN. He barely lost anything. He lost like his Hellions, and that's about it.
Yeah, this has been a really well-controlled game from Hart against a much favored opponent. HyuN moving into the third. Really the last big fresh mining base, and all the tech is there too. The infestation pit's right there, the Spire's there. He actually killed the Baneling nest, so HyuN can't even build Banelings if he wanted to.
Nope, and even if he makes them, he doesn't have Baneling speed. GG, and Hart takes a very convincing Game 1 victory over Overgrowth. And on Overgrowth, excuse me, and HyuN is going to have to switch things up a little bit for the next map, because on a map like this is not supposed to happen between two players that are very evenly matched, or you would even say that HyuN is the favorite. Like,
oh yeah,
I really believed in Hart, like we spoke about this. I picked him in my ESL fantasy team as well, but I did not expect this game #1 to play out like this. He made it look easy.
Yeah, that was really well controlled, especially when you consider that these Hellions, you normally get the Hellbat transformation or you throw these away, but he used them in this fight, and they soak up a lot of those Baneling hits and buffer against the Zerglings. And once those Marines on the left side are allowed to still fire throughout all of this, I mean, Hart's aren't. He just has too good of a spread for you to actually get any good detonations.
Yeah, it's one of those things that comes into play when you focus on the upgrades before going up to late. That of course means that your Baneling speed is going to be a little later because your layer is later, and that means that Baneling speed is going to get later. And against someone like Hart, you have to ask yourself, especially on a map like this, on a larger map, I think you can get away with it. You know, if it's Nimbus, which I believe is map #2, I think then it's okay. But on a small map like this, surviving the first push is going to get difficult, and Hart just showed us why.
Yeah, really cool way to build off of an opening that didn't seem to accomplish too much for Hart. Even having his command center delayed a little bit, which is always unfortunate, but HyuN is the kind of player that can bounce back. The next map is Nimbus, which I'd say historically favors a defensive player, especially in 2-base scenarios. So is this the built map where HyuN breaks out the Roach builds? I personally don't think so. We've seen it, but it's the least effective map for those types of strategies.
I mean, Roaches is also, it's so risky to go for it, because you're like, yeah, you can pick up that easy map win by just steamrolling through, picking up a bunker, and then suddenly you have 12 Roaches in the main. You're like, hey, I should do this every day or every game. But so if it doesn't work, then suddenly you're trailing 0-2 in this series, and then things get extremely difficult. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a standard HyuN, but maybe just this map is going to play out different than Overgrowth, though. I'm not saying that I don't like the way that he opened on Overgrowth, because I think it was fine, it was okay-ish. It's just, it's a smaller map, so surviving that first push without baning speed can get difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things we can touch on after, but so far for Game 2, we have cross spawn on TvZ in the top right position. The blue Terran player, the Terran underdog from Axiom Esports is up 1-0. Give a cheer for Heart. Big thanks, of course, to all the awesome folk that came out here to Burbank, California studios once again to come watch these games live.
Hell yeah. Over here on the left bottom side of TvZ, we have the #1 ranked player in the world according to WCS points. Give it up for Rocket's HyuN.
Yeah, so you make a really interesting point, though, when you talk about the build orders, because if HyuN were to try to make a Roach build, perhaps that's something that Heart was counting on. When you go for a build where you have Hellions in so many places, if HyuN opens up for a Roach build, usually you do it off of a gasless opening, so you don't have Zergling speed. And with Hellions pushing both bases without Zergling speed, Queens usually aren't enough to stop them from coming in and killing a bunch of drones. And we actually saw Heart get in and kill a lot of workers of, I believe it was in his match against Scarlet, and she just couldn't afford to actually go for anything aggressive.
Of course, keep the tweets coming as well. Hashtag WCS. We just had a tweet coming in. How many Roaches will Rocket HyuN make in this series? My guess is 1,337. Unless we have a couple of draws, that seems a little unlikely, but you know, I'll take it, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple of games where HyuN against Huck.
Yeah, on the Catalina, he did make over 250 Roaches or something.
Yeah, so if it takes 200 Roaches to die in a 20-minute game, if you want 1337. A couple hour-long games you could do it. If he just makes only Roaches for a whole hour, I guess. It's possible.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. There are very few things in life that make me more happy than the sound of dying Roaches.
Yeah, it would be a first, I think.
All right, both players opening up very economic, of course, on this large map. This is the only map in the current map pool with an in-base expand, so it's very normal that HyuN goes for the hatch first and Heart goes for the command center first. He still drops speed pretty quick. I don't expect him to do something crazy with it. What's worth mentioning is when they played against each other in Season 2, HyuN did just Zergling Baneling bust Heart on one of the maps, and that's, of course, you know, that's something when you just start playing StarCraft, you're like, well, I'm not exactly sure how to do this whole layer thing, so I'm just going to make Zerglings and Banelings and hope I win. And then you get some wins and you're like, yeah, I'm really good in this game.
Yeah.
Now, but in general, that shouldn't work in the semifinals of WCS America. But of course, it all comes down to scouting, and there's a lot of mind games involved, and Heart does cut a few corners as well. As we can see, not a command center going down. But he does have a gas already, so...
It's not quite bomber level greedy.
No, exactly.
But it's still, you know, you're right, a pretty greedy build. He's going to be left with not too many units. You move into Hellions, and builds like this are naturally weak against Roaches because you delay everything except the Hellions, and then you don't... Hellions just aren't good against Roaches. But HyuN, you also have to keep in mind, because Heart showed so much variety in his mixing up of builds, you can't just see this and be like, okay, command center first. He definitely has a third command center, because maybe he's going to do something even crazier and go for just a similar play with more economy.
Yeah. But for now, we saw HyuN put away all the drones from the extractor. He's not really mining a whole lot of gas, so he's aiming to play a very economic game as well. I am very curious about the layer timing in this game, though, Nate, because I feel if you want to play that upgraded Zergling style, I feel it's better on a larger map like TvZ, where it's just easier to intercept reinforcements and whatnot than it is on Overgrowth, because that first real push arrives so quickly. The moment that Heart decided to move out, you know, within 20 seconds he's across the map, and on a map like TvZ, that just takes a little longer. So even if you don't have Baneling speed yet, you might have a few more units, and it's all just a little easier. For now, the barracks and the factory will switch up. The Zerglings revealed the fact they have speed, but they also saw the factory, so I guess you could say that's an even trade in information.
Yeah, it shouldn't be surprising for a Zerg player to see something like that. The bunker is kind of Heart's way of saying, you won't kill me if you did go for Roaches, but there's a second gas. And on a starport, once more, it could very well just be the same type of push again, and obviously not the exact same, but
yeah, because he has
get an equal amount of damage done.
But he has another command center, so
yeah.
it's
just hits a little later, and we can see his changeup is going to go for Banshee.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. Why not? It's a large map, and Banshees are also good in slowing your opponent down and just giving yourself some extra map presence, because normally you don't have it because your stimmed Marines and stuff are all so late. What is interesting is that HyuN researched Overlord speed pretty damn quick. It just finished up, so HyuN is going to get a very good scout over here in the main base, and he's going to see that third orbital command, and he's also going to see the starport, and that is very nice information, because from this point on, HyuN is like, cool, well, just in case I might drop a spore or two, but above all, I'm just going to make a lot of drones. Yeah,
I mean, you see that there's no cloak, and even then, just having a good number of queens can do it. HyuN's going up to 6 queens at the moment, and since as you said, the third command center and double engineering bay play gets scouted, HyuN knows he doesn't have to worry about a fast stim push. He knows he doesn't have to worry about really anything except for the Hellions trying to run by or the Banshee picking off a few drones here and there. And he's even going to build a spine crawler just to make sure those Hellions can't put too much pressure on the front.
But look at the vision that HyuN has on the map as well. He has overlords everywhere, so it's not like 8 or 10 Hellions are going to be able to sneak across the map without him being aware of it. Like, no, he knows where the Hellions are, he knows the amount of Hellions as well, so HyuN shouldn't really have to overdo anything. He's getting his Baneling Nest, but he also threw down both Evolution Chambers, so once more, it's a similar playstyle to what he showed on Overgrowth, but this time he's going to have all the freedom in the world to actually execute his game plan. So that's still very, very different.
Yeah, this is one of those games that should go a little bit longer, Roddy. Yeah. We're going to see the full array of skill that these guys can show in that mid-game control, which we know that Hart has, and he displayed in the last map. But he's also he is really powering up this this production that he has. He wants to just plant this third base, start his 2-2, and just explode with production. We've seen on big maps like this, Hart actually kind of likes to play this rally down the map style. He used it pretty successfully against Scarlet in his previous matches against her as well.
Yep. Of course, both players have a great economy to work with. HyuN doesn't have his fourth hatch yet, so he actually morphs it in right now. If all of the Hellions and the Banshees would go there immediately, or the single Banshee, it might be a little bit tricky to hold on to it, but I guess he will be fine, because he has quite a few Zerglings, and above all, he has quite a few Queens that are spreading creep and stuff that will connect the bases with each other. But so far, the only thing that Hart has done is, like, it just keeps him in check. He knows that HyuN saw everything that he did, so it's unwise for Hart to make a huge investment in some sort of harass. I hope that it does damage, because if HyuN's seen it all, then most likely he will be prepared.
Yeah, and there's also the fun little back and forth when you look at the Viking that Hart made, because HyuN, well, this Viking going straight into his base, if he kills this, he can respread his Overlords because he has Overlord speed, and the Viking also only has 1 kill, because as soon as HyuN realized that he was going Overlord hunting, he said, well, just pull all the Overlords out on the map back. Great power speed.
Yep. Yeah, why not? I mean, losing a single
now
Overlord
he could respread them if he wanted right now.
Yep, it's pretty much the cost. I mean, soon the Marines will start moving out.
They are. The Overlords are spreading too. It's pretty cool. Immediately they start leaving his base.
He's getting a macro hatchery as well. The Infestation Pit and the Spire went down at the same time. HyuN could start his 2-2 upgrade soon. I think he should, because his layer is ready, and he has quite a bit of money. I mean, he's low on minerals, but those go up quickly anyway.
It's all these tiny edges that HyuN fights for, though. Keeping creep spread at your 4th base is incredibly important, because Baneling speed plus creep really allows those Banelings to get close enough to the Marines that you can shut down big pushes. Even as an army as huge as this, even with Hellbats buffering, will fall if it's too clumped.
So would you say that Hart should just push on the right side of that 4th base?
Yes.
There's no creep over there. He can, of course, eliminate a couple of these creep tumors, because he knows that HyuN is not just going to engage his army all the way in the middle of the map. But I think he shouldn't try to go this way. I think he should swing to the right.
Because it takes a while for that creep to go away. Yep. If you step too much further forward, you're committed even if you don't realize it yet, because HyuN can at any moment decide to go for an attack, and your army does not move fast enough to get away.
Yeah, I think Hart is playing with fire over here. A lot of additional Banelings, just more for HyuN. He doesn't have 2-2 upgrades, but neither does Hart. It seems like HyuN should have enough over here, right?
He's going to move forward. Hart does get most of his Marines off of creep, but HyuN doesn't trade out too many of his Banelings. That Banshee is surprisingly effective. HyuN's building Corruptors too.
That went still pretty okay for Hart, despite it looked like he was pretty committed on creep. Like you said, most of the Marines ran off creep, and HyuN didn't want to chase.
He mostly moved the Hellbats forward, which is it's a smart play by him. I'm really interested that we're seeing Corruptors. Scarlet tried this yesterday as well.
But like, why do they get the Infestation Pit so quick if they don't use it? I just don't really understand that.
Still an investment. Maybe if you think you're not going to be attacked, you can try to go for Hive still, but yeah, you're right. It's very, very interesting Not standard.
Look at Hard supplies, 192.
All those Marauders just soaked up 6 or 7 Banelings. Now the Marines are spreading, and they also have Widow Mines to cover for them away off of creep. If you can kill that Overseer, it further complicates things. You can't actually kill the Widow Mines.
Not too many Banelings remaining. Still a few, though, so Hard still has to be very tricky. But I feel so far he's getting the better hand of all these minor trades.
Yeah, and this is going great for Hart because he doesn't have to worry about being attacked back home. He's getting his 4th command center. His +3 upgrades are starting. It's like we haven't really looked at his base because there hasn't been much to see. He's just pumping everything out and attacking HyuN.
All the action is on this side of the map. There are still those Corruptors that start chipping away at these Medivacs. 2 Medivacs get picked off immediately. A lot of Banelings rolling in, but there are Widow Mines in the mix as well.
You're fighting a Terran player that has his Marines off creep. I'm really surprised that he's pushed in from this angle,
but he made it work.
He made it work really, really well so far.
Of course, he didn't break HyuN yet. HyuN is going up to a hive as well, so eventually, like the 3-3 upgrades are going to be relatively quick for HyuN, at least, you know, taking all things into consideration, what kind of matchup this is and whatnot. So it's still pretty quick, and so far he hasn't lost any drones, he hasn't lost his 4th base.
And with all these Corruptors he has, I wonder if he even just starts a Greater Spire too. That'd be really crazy.
But like the next minute or so, I think that's where things get very complicated for HyuN. This is not comfortable. Like Zerg is not supposed to just sit back with their Zerglings and Banelings and defend. Unless you're really waiting for your Ultralisk or, like you mentioned, maybe a Great Aspire. But I'm afraid that Hard is never going to give him the time for that.
No. More and more Banelings in production. I love this. You just pull the Marauders forward. Banelings not particularly effective against that heavy armor they have.
Yeah, like Flo's showing us as well. 135 army supply against 106. Hard has been very methodical about this push so far. Never really overcommitted. But so far he has been trading well. He could still try to do this from the right side. HyuN, of course, setting himself up in a strong defense position. And you're right, Nate. There goes the Great Aspire.
So Broodlords, as weird of a choice as it seems, Hart does not have the infrastructure necessary to deal with a heavy air force, but HyuN's going to step off of creep to fight. There's still Widow Mines in this army, and I don't think there's any way he breaks this force. He shouldn't be
Most of the Banelings have been picked up, but there are still a couple of Banelings in the mix. They're getting really close, but Hart's split so far has been on the money. A couple of Banelings getting close to okay.
Fighting off creep for Zerg really complicates things. HyuN has the supply lead, starting up a huge number of Zerglings, and it really seemed that he just wanted to get him off of his back. He could have waited a little bit longer, but perhaps the Thors were really starting to scare him.
Let's not forget those 3-3 upgrades as well. That's Flo showing us. If he waits a little longer, then he's
taking that fight a minute later might have you screwed.
And like you said, at least he pushed Hard back. That was a pretty even fight, I guess.
He definitely has time to get Broodlords now.
But this is a large map, and
he kept the medevac count actually pretty low. There's only 4 on the map. For pretty much, you know, just pure bio army, you really want to keep that medevac count closer to 8.
Burrow is about to finish up as well, so perhaps HyuN can try to make something happen with that.
Yeah. If you're in a position where you want to build medevacs, then building Vikings certainly won't enter your mind, and you wouldn't normally build against Zerg anyway. So
we're still looking at a single starport. You mentioned this before.
Threat.
Yeah, the infrastructure for Hard is not in the right place right now. It's not in the place where it should be to deal with those Broodlords. 3
Broodlords on the way. I think you get closer to 5, 6, and that's when it's really scary. Those Broodlings, the units that they fire at the Marines, will draw the fire of the Widow Mines back on his own army, and we know how much damage they can do even when you're baiting them with Zerglings.
Interesting location of this 5th base as well of HyuN. It seems so difficult to defend this.
Yeah, he's pretty stretched out. But it's also the only place he's really been spreading his creep too, because it got cleaned up on the left side. It's been cleaned up in the center all game. This is the only creep path he's been able to take.
I mean, the Broodlords, of course, in a straight-up fight, they are going to be absolutely amazing. But I guess for Hard, it's key to get another starport down and just start avoiding those Broodlords. Start dropping with 2-3 medevacs at once and just try to find an opening, or at least make sure that HyuN keeps defending until you get your 2nd or 3rd starport. Because if he doesn't,
you need to just kill all the Banelings and then run under the Broodlords. But now the Banelings and Zerglings will move in. The Broodlords are going to hit from behind.
The Banelings were very, very close to the Marines. It's impossible to spread on creep when they are that close. The Thor is taking a lot of damage as well, and this is starting very okay for HyuN over here.
Yeah, Hart doesn't really have that much of a bank to actually throw down starports. He has gas in the bank, and Ravens are great versus Broodlords, but you need those minerals because then the Zerglings are going to keep pouring across map. 72 in production, more Banelings on the way, and now this army is starting to trade itself against free units.
And the Marines are not in a high enough number, I feel, to just run forward. There are a couple of Queens there as well for Transfuse.
Good Transfuses so far. Well, only one Broodlord has died.
The other Broodlord just refuses to die, and for
What a
now
champ.
Hart is going to have to disengage. Well done there.
That's great.
By HyuN.
Great transfuses. That's very easy. You know, it's very easy to mess up the transfuses when you're trying to do everything while simultaneously continuing to click on those Broodlords.
Yep, this is going to get really difficult for Hart now.
He's not even building Vikings. He hasn't started any starports. He's pretty much just hoping to catch the Broodlords out of position, but now there's Banelings with the army.
Yeah, beautiful game so far. HyuN is sacrificing a lot of Zerglings over here, though. I don't think he's going to be able to get the Planetary Fortress, but he does have a lot of money, so I guess it's sort of okay. There are a lot of Banelings over here in the mix as well. Marines really don't want to get too close to those Broodlords, because they will get transfused. And above all,
he's trying to draw the Banelings away from the Broodlords so that he can run under them, and as he draws to the right side, he goes to the left, but that army's just not big enough, and Hart loses a huge amount of his forces. His bank has run out. Of course, that fourth base with the mules will allow him to continue to produce, but without anything in the bank, he can't add production, which is what you really need against this. And those Broodlings, they have 3/3 upgrades. They deal an incredible amount of damage to this army.
Yeah, beautiful play by HyuN. He was under a lot of pressure, but he kept calm. He even lost quite a bit of his creep, but he just hang in there like a champ. He bought time, and at a certain moment he decided to go for it, which was a relatively even fight, and that bought him the time to get these Broodlords out. And the first fight with the Broodlords, of course, went fantastic. Has to still be careful, though. There are a lot of Marines over here now, and most of the Broodlings are out of position, but there's still Banelings to save today.
The transfuses are real, too, Roddy. These Broodlords, in this game seemed like Hart was just pushing HyuN back and back and back, but once he got that hive up, everything turned around, and
that was a beautiful game by HyuN.
Very well controlled.
Yep.
We don't see too many Zerg players opt for, you know, no Mutalisks in their army compositions, and we were a bit confused when we saw Scarlet build these. I think there was maybe during the WCG Cup, I think Dark tried something like this, and it looked very confusing. He didn't really have a crazy amount of success with it, but maybe it's going to become a little bit of a thing. I don't know.
I mean, if you would be able to get away with it on a map like Overgrowth, then it's a lot easier for those Broodlords to make their way across the map as well. And that is truly, it's hard to imagine that Broodlords can just fly across Nimbus before there are any Vikings out. But you know, there was just only a single starport for the longest amount of time.
I think it can come down to being a little bit stubborn on the part of Hart too. Normally, a Zerg player will never ever build Corruptors unless they're going for Broodlords. And you can say, yeah, they're good against the Medivacs, but if you see the Corruptors, you should always keep in the back of your mind that if they're heading for Hive Tech, you might need to be building, you know, Vikings or even trying to get more Thors out instead of adding on Marauders.
You know what I would have loved to see? While Hart was keeping on the pressure in the middle of the map, I really felt there was a window of opportunity for him once or twice as we take another look at one of the bigger fights. The first fight with the Broodlords, and those Banelings, they were just able to get very close to the Marines. I don't think that Hart expected that amount of units and that amount of Broodlords in this phase in the game, and that's truly where it all went wrong. He decided to make a hold over here in the middle of the map, but the Tor that gets dropped will die immediately against all these Broodlords as well, and the Broodlings just messing up the AI. But I really feel if you have a Zerg that much on the defense, on the back foot, then you should try to start dropping, you know, like a double medevac drop in the natural of HyuN.
And then this too, really, you have all these Marines, instead of saving up and getting a big wave to push out with your next production round, he focuses on the Broodlord, and normally it's not a terrible idea, because there's no supporting units there. But if with the Queens with that much energy, I think it's something. How many transfuses was that? Easily a dozen to keep that thing alive.
It's one of those moments where it truly comes down to a judgment call. Do I have enough Marines to stim forward and kill them?
That's a really hard choice to make.
Once the Broodlords start retreating, you know they're okay, because they can't really retreat. They're so slow. So if one of them dies, often a lot of them die. But in this case, yes, one of them died, but that was because the transfuse button wasn't used. And on the second one, it was.
Then you also know, you realize, well, if I don't go for it now, he's going to be at my base, and then there will be Banelings under those Broodlords, and you can't just sit under there and focus fire them. So that was a tough game for Hart. Everything seemed really great. He just got really caught off guard by the Broodlord switch.
He definitely got the better hand of the exchanges early on. He was losing more resources. I think that fort base of Hart, because he had so much map presence and so much map control in a weird way, because he wasn't being counterattacked or harassed at all. I think the fort could have been a little quicker. HyuN was there as well with an Overlord, dropping creep, all those small things, but it does make it different. It slows the Terran economy down. Because normally if a Terran is that much in control of the center of the map for that amount of time, that fort base should have been up and running a little quicker, and maybe even just build that fifth base on location, because HyuN had no units at all on the other side of the map. He was only worried about just not losing any of his bases and keeping everything at home.
Yeah,
because he was stacking up.
Well, if you're able to sit on your opponent's side of the field, there's so many things that you can do, and even in that instance, just a scan in HyuN's base would have revealed a lot of information. But we're loaded up, guys. It's a nice tied series here, 1 apiece on merry-go-round. In the top left position, the red Zerg player representing Team Rocket, ranked #1 WCS worldwide. He is HyuN.
And on the right top side of merry-go-round, we have the man who is fighting for his first appearance ever in the final of a Premier League StarCraft 2 tournament. Give it up for HyuN. If I recall correctly, Nate, this is his 4th appearance in the semi-finals of a major tournament or Premier League tournament, however you want to put it. 4 times the charm?
Hey, man, worked for the Eagles, right? I think it's the only thing I can pull from in my memory.
The Eagles, Nate?
Yeah.
Which Eagles?
I think I've been following. the real sports a little bit too long, Roddy. HyuN's opening up with the spawning pool again, though. This map is infamous for 2 racks play. Innovation did this when we got to see Maru play a lot in Pro League. He 2 racks. I'm pretty sure every single game he played on this map, whether or not the game went for an hour long, wasn't necessarily relevant, but lots of 2 racks.
Similar opening to what we saw on Overgrowth, again getting the extractor as well before the hatchery. That's definitely a little uncommon. That's not something we see super often. Sue did it as well on Foxtrot Labs, right, in the final? I guess at 2 racks.
Yeah. He did it twice. He opened 15 pool twice, I believe, in that final.
But it didn't work against the mighty 11-11.
No. Well, you look at a player like Innovation. It's hard to stop whatever attack he wants to go for. But this is a map that you typically like to open Reaper on still because it's not always easy to see. If you SCV scout the wrong base and your opponent does any type of pool first opening, and it doesn't, you could even be something like an early aggressive pool like players like Snoot would do, then you find yourself getting this command center canceled. But the Reaper still needs to be careful. It looks like it's headed over towards that top left base.
Yeah, because I think he saw the Overlord coming in.
Yeah.
Of course, he's a tiny bit worried as well. He wants to make sure that it's not once again 2 Zerglings
this is just smart. Having this Reaper patrol is just smart because we saw what happened with those Zerglings in the last game.
He wants to make sure that won't happen once more. Now, if there's one map where I might expect HyuN to go for a crazy Roach Banal,
this is the map.
This is definitely the map.
This makes me think back to Bomber in his round of 16 group when we saw the epic 10-minute Roach Banal
same locations,
attack.
exactly same spawning locations. Was between Czech and Bomber. If you guys wonder,
that game was interesting.
How a Roach Banal in can go on for 7 minutes. Just take a look at that game. Eventually, with 2 Marines, you do defend all in.
Yeah, getting upgrades behind those defenses really, for Terran, in Terran versus Zerg and versus Protoss especially when we look at players like HyuN that go for these aggressive plays, is this Zergling is actually still gonna somehow get through and delay this command center. Well, that's
really unfortunate.
Just really frustrating as a Terran.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't put you crazy behind, but it happens and you're like, ugh, my Reaper could have gone out and scouted and the same thing would have happened anyway.
Yep, because you try to prevent something and then in the end, it still happens. Even if it's just a few seconds. It's more of a mental victory for HyuN than anything else. But, still 1 SCV. It's exactly what you like.
And Zergling speed is going to finish up now. HyuN will once again pump out just 6 lings. He's not committing big to it yet. He wants to keep his drone count rising higher and higher. And that's, against a player like Hart, he is also known for his infamous defense of the Roach. It might have just been Zergling bailing on Frost in Season 2.
Yeah, well, I think in the end he did lose that game, but his crisis management was absolutely insane. He used hold position fantastic on both Hellions
and sniping
SCVs.
was godlike.
Yeah, it was in the right bottom of Frost. That was one of the first games this year where I was like, wow, since when did Hart become so good at this game?
Since when did Hart become a god to be able to win the game with 2 SCVs?
Now, Stim is pretty quick. Of course, it's an economic opening behind this for Hart because he does have 3 orbital commands in the near future. But right now, he's down a few workers. He will be able to catch up in economy eventually. But I do think that he wants to make some magic happen with that Stim as soon as it's done. You could say it's a little similar to Overgrowth. However, I don't think that HyuN is going to go for that Evolution Chamber style before a layer again on a small map like this. I think it's just, you're almost begging to just be punished for it.
Well, the thing is, this game, Hard is going for the most cookie-cutter standard Terran versus Zerg build you can get. There's no starport this game. There's no armory. There's a single gas, and he's even building his barracks before he gets that second gas, which is slightly uncommon. TvZ likes to do this quite a bit in this matchup and then just go straight up to 4 gas very quickly. So he's not looking to do too much except keep map control with these Hellions and keep his eyes on what HyuN is up to, because as you said, this map is good for those aggressive strategies. You might as well just defend and prepare.
Yep, no layer yet for HyuN, but no evolution chambers either. I'm just keeping a close eye on the production tab because I want to know what he's going to do. Well, there goes evolution chamber number 1, and we'll probably add another one immediately. I think the layer will still be a tiny bit quicker, but it's a late layer regardless.
Yeah, it's a very late layer considering how fast Stim is done. The one thing that's fortunate for him is he doesn't have to deal with any medevac play, and this Reaper gets caught. Quite nice.
Poor guy.
Great positioning on that bad boy. And Art's going to continue to add on barracks. He's just now starting his starport. So the layer being late isn't even that big of a deal, because if you don't have medevacs to worry about, your big focus is just keeping that creep spread going, and then your Zerglings and Banelings can hold the fort for you.
Of course, but most likely it will still come down to that first fight where HyuN is not going to have access to Baneling speed yet, or at least I'll be surprised if he has Baneling speed already by the time that Hard wants to get that first fight. HyuN is going to send over his orbital commander. There's a single Zergling there that will be perhaps a little bit annoying, but we'll see. He's not taking any risk either with his Hellions. It's pretty conservative play so far.
Yeah. Hey, if you run the Hellions in a situation like this, but without having a medevac core or Banshees, then counterattacks are very strong for Zerg players because the way the production works, you lose your Hellions, you're like, I have 6 Marines, yay! My reactors are building. And then 20 Banelings break down your wall, and you're like, well, wish I had my Hellions.
Could have tried to swing via the south side of this map and try to pick off a couple of drones, because let's not forget, on Overgrowth he did get 8 drones. Now it wasn't game-ending damage that was dealt over there, but that is nice. This game so far, nothing has happened. Of course he made way more Hellions on Overgrowth than he made currently.
I think it's a sign of respect. You're playing against HyuN, man. These types of plays are what really scare you. You know, if you're not playing against HyuN, maybe you throw them away, but you want to be at that tower to see if any roaches or any big Zergling swells are coming in. There's a scan, sees the Spire, the Infestation Pit once again.
Sees the Baneling Nest Riggo as well. Sees everything.
Yeah, those two tech structures though, Roddy. You pointed this out on the last map. He's getting the Infestation Pit as fast as that Spire, and he hasn't gone for Infestors in any game, so once again, he might just be trying to hold out for that late game play.
Yep. I do think he is. Zergling's going to try to get the surround on these Hellions, but they won't be able to get it just yet. Here comes that first army. Baneling speed is halfway done. Baneling's actually getting a little bit out in the wide open. They have to be careful. Hard sees his opportunity as well. He's like, hey, I'd like to fight this. Slow Banelings off creep any day of the week.
Yeah, surprisingly, Hart does not have an armory. He can't start any additional upgrades, and he also cannot turn these Hellions into
fort base is
battle mode.
Dead though, right?
Yeah, this base, this should be killable. There's not a lot of Banelings, and Baneling speed still isn't done yet.
Yeah, 16 more Banelings on the way. With those 16 Banelings, HyuN should be able to defend it. Hard is a little indecisive over here. Of course, wants to make sure that he won't get surrounded by this army.
The next wave of Banelings really helps. Yeah, just stim the Marauders, poke forward, Widowmines, and there's no creep on the other side though. Nope. I think this is doable for Hard.
I think you know, there are a couple of Widowmines in the mix, so he has to be very careful. Widowmine is indecisive, doesn't really shoot. A lot of Marines are still alive though. Jesus, where did all those guys come from?
Spreading off creep, man. It's a very difficult position to attack into for a Zerg, considering that even this little crevice on the south side of the army forces the Zerglings to all clump up a bit, and then they can't get that surround as fast.
Yep, 14 more Banelings are morphing. I felt that HyuN just engaged like 5 seconds before Baneling speed was ready. That was really weird, because it felt like he was hanging out for that, and I think the hatch would have been fine regardless, because Hard was a little indecisive. Here come those Banelings with speed.
Hard's army control is too good.
Yep, there are still a few more Banelings in the mixer, so he has to be careful. There are Widowmines as well.
This is a tricky spot to be in. He's going to pick up a lot of these Marines. Widowmines not detonating. Also, just important to say once again, there's no armory, and 2-2 is on the way for HyuN.
Only 2 Banelings or something, but one of them is getting very close, but I think there's enough DPS in this Marine army to hold for now. Hard saved the majority of those forces, and he got the fort base.
I mean, what Hard is doing is almost a parade push all in. He's not been building SCVs. His third base isn't saturated. Now he starts the armory, but those 2-2 upgrades are going to come so late that once those Zerglings get the advantage, you have a really hard time fighting against them head-to-head, especially if you can keep the creep spread in front of your bases.
And let's not forget, there are 8 Corruptors on the way now as well. Those Corruptors will start chipping away again at these medevacts. Hard has been doing pretty okay in this game, but he needs to finish it within the next, let's say, 90 seconds. His army supply, okay, he has a massive advantage actually. 105 against 58. That's ridiculous. How many Banelings are we looking at now? Only 12. 12 is probably not enough, unless he gets Dream Connections.
Look how many Marauders are up front. Yeah. The way his army is set up, right? You have Marauders, then the Widow Mines, then the Marines. So you have to not only just run by the Marauders, which can snipe Banelings, but you have to get by these Widow Mines, which can blow your whole army up. And even then, he's only moving forward a handful of Marines at a time. This is a very difficult, entrenched position for HyuN to attack into.
He's waiting for those 2-2 upgrades. If he can get a fight with 2-2, then maybe it is possible. A few Banelings roll in ahead of the army and don't really get the connections that we're looking for.
2-2 so close to finishing for HyuN, but he's going to be forced to fight just before the upgrade set completes. And those Marauders tanking every single Baneling in this army.
There is so much Terran over here. And like you said, all these cardboard animation Marauders, man. They can soak up Banelings for days, Nate.
And these, I mean, when you have an army set up like this, man, these are your bro-rotters. they take it all for you, man. They take a grenade. No worries.
They'll jump on it indeed. First, Marines and Marauders start entering the natural. Now, HyuN knows that he can't really let this go any further before he starts losing important tech buildings and maybe even a hatchery or so. A couple of the Marauders have fallen. There are still a few Banelings in the mix, but these Marines are tucked away so nicely that it's going to get extremely difficult for HyuN to get those connections that he's looking for.
Yeah, even though he has the army, the upgrade lead now, he doesn't have the army size he needs to fight this. Especially since every trade that happens,
it's still
there's
hard
no way for him to he can't push the creep back though. So this is just progressively getting easier for Hard as he kills the tumors.
It's still a little difficult because if Hard goes in, then Banelings could be coming from either side, from the main or natural, and also from the third or the fourth. So he still has to be very careful with how he wants to do this. His 2 upgrades, by the way, are more than halfway done now as well. He did decide to get an armory eventually.
And this fight's been going on for a very long time. Widowmine's not getting massive detonations, but still, spreading Marines off creep is really all you need to do to win trades, especially without mutas. None of your important units are getting sniped like those medevacs.
Now we have the big stim up the ramp, and he's getting nice and close to all these important buildings, to a hatchery as well. A couple of the queens going down. The Baneling nest will get picked off immediately.
No Baneling nest, no Banelings on the map. There's no way you can kill this many Marines stacked up next to your hatchery like this.
And this time the Corruptors are not going to make the difference. There is no Hive, no Great Aspire, no Broodlords. All the Zerglings are running in, but look at the positioning of these Marines. They're just having a field day.
It's a bloodbath, Roddy. More and more Marines streaming across the field. GG! Hart goes up 2-1 against the #1 WCS point ranked player in the world.
And I like the adjustments that he made in the build there, like you pointed out. No armory for the longest amount of time. He didn't really produce a whole lot of SCVs behind it. It was a parade push that never stopped. And, you know, merry-go-round, it is difficult to defend that forward base, especially if there's not too much creep spread around there. It got close, though, and I really wonder if HyuN would have waited a few more seconds until he had Baneling speed. Maybe he gets a few better connections.
Yeah, Baneling speed. When you're not playing with Mutalisks, the only tech plays you have in Zerg versus Terran are either really fast 2-2, which wasn't done yet for that fight, and Baneling speed with creep. You sweep up that army, and even if you trade a little bit poorly, because you're not building mutas, you can afford to just continuously crank out lots of Lingbane, while in the last game going for tech. But for this game, every little push he makes, like Hart just doesn't, like his Marines just know to run away from each other.
Yeah, that was really well. This one Widow did a lot of friendly fire over here, by the way. Like 6 Marines or so died, but that was a really good pick-off. A few Marauders soaking up a lot of Banelings, and look, he starts sniping Banelings over here immediately, and there are only 2 Banelings remaining, and this is the moment where HyuN realized, like, alright, the other Banelings are going to arrive too late to this party, I'm going to have to disengage. And disengaging in a ZVT fight is pretty much always a bad sign for the Zerg player, unless you have like Ultralisk and Infestus behind this, or Broodlords. With Zerglings, Banelings, and Mutas, you pretty much have to win fights consistently.
Yeah, it's a very momentum-heavy play, because unless you can go for something like run-bys, which even in that position, run-bys, like how much can you do to a third base that only has 4 SCVs at it, right? Like he lifts the command center and then he kills you anyway.
Yeah, but like in the moment you start going for run-bys again,
then your army's smaller.
Yeah, your defensive army is even smaller, and he's already having such a hard time hanging in there. On Nimbus, he was able to hang in there like an absolute champ, but again, Nimbus is a much larger map, so it takes a lot longer for hardest reinforcements to make their way across the map. Overgrowth and Merry-Go-Round are a lot smaller, and I really question like him rushing up to the infestation pit when Hard is being that aggressive. I understand the idea, and obviously he wants to morph those Corruptors into Broodlords again, but on this level, all your resources matter. These are guys that, you know, if they can skip a drone or if they can delay one set of Zerglings for an extra drone, they will do it. And an Infestation Pit, right when you hit Tier 2, that's a reasonable investment that is not going to pay for itself immediately. And in a situation where you can truly use every unit you can possibly muster
the
out.
Infestation Pit didn't do anything.
No,
you could argue that the Spire doesn't help either if you can't get to Hive Tech. Like the Corruptors will pick up a few Medivacs, but I'm not sure if I'd rather have a couple of extra Banelings or that 2-2 a little bit faster.
I mean, like once there are Corruptors and they start working on those Medivacs, the Medivacs do die surprisingly quick. And Corruptors are beefy, so they do soak up a little bit of damage.
The thing is, I mean, the Corruptors have the armor too, so it's harder for the Marines to kill them, and they'll always target the Medivac since they can't shoot down. Yeah,
so they are not for nothing, but an Infestation Pit that quick when you're under that much pressure, that is perhaps a little questionable. Anyways, this man has his work cut out for him. He's going up against an Axiom player that's playing his strongest matchup, but he knows how to make a comeback. Give it up for Rocket's HyuN.
The Roach King has not yet built a single one this series. We haven't seen him. We have not seen him. And this guy's got to be happy about that, because this series now, he's just one game away from going to the Grand Finals to potentially get his first ever championship in StarCraft 2. He's your blue Terran player. He's representing Team Axiom Esports. He is hard.
And now, Nate, like I'm really starting to like get hyped just for Hard as well, because like what's going through his mind? For him, this is such a huge game. I don't think he's ever been one map win away from making it into the Grand Finals of a Premier League StarCraft 2 tournament. You know, is it going to mess with his nerves a little bit, or is he just going to keep his calm and keep doing what he has been doing throughout the entire season? And I would almost say even last season, because last season he too played great StarCraft, made it all the way to the semifinals, lost in the TVT back then. You know, TvZ, that is his thing.
Yeah, for Hart, this is the run. He will play a Terran versus Terran if he can make it to the Grand Finals, and it's very doable for him.
Yep.
I'm really, really liking his position, especially being able to go up 2-1 against as formidable of an opponent as HyuN, who once again, this game, has gone for that 15 spawning pool with the gas on top.
Yep, I'm a little bit surprised by this, because this does slow your economy down a little bit as well. And so far, I do not feel that this really has paid for itself. And of course, we shouldn't make it bigger than in this, but it's still something. And on this level,
I mean, for some players, we'd say if you're good enough, right? Like Bomber loves to play really greedy against Pig Baby. He knew, he's like, I don't want to take that chance. I think I'm better than you in a longer game, so I will take that extra concession to scout, get the Reaper out. In a situation like this, opening up 15 pool every game with the gas is maybe giving Hart a little bit more than you should, because if you're not delaying that command center a lot, then you're not really getting your money's worth.
And Catalina has a larger map as well, so it takes a while before slow Zerglings...
He's also getting another Reaper as well.
Exactly, I was about to say, it takes longer for slow Zerglings to make their way across the map, and if they would do that, well, then there is a second Reaper that will just receive them with open arms, give them a hug before they shoot him.
Yeah, man. Those Reapers is so important to have on this map. This map is so good for Reapers. There's no better map in the pool, I think, for these bad boys. You have so many different angles that you can attack that main base from. He's even going straight up to 3 Reapers, so HyuN will have to be very careful. And this is one of the reasons why this map is the most popular. It's an obvious choice to go for the very early pool, because you don't want these Reapers to kill too much. You have your Queen, you shouldn't lose drones, but 3 Reapers, man, if they can continue to poke away at the Queens, it can really snowball an advantage.
What's important is that the Reaper did hop into the main base, and I think it saw drones carrying gas, but I don't think he didn't see the extractor yet, so he doesn't know the exact amount of gas that has been mined. And that could actually throw him off, because this speed is quick. There are 6 Zerglings on the way now. Now I think this is the first time that he went all the way, that he saw the extractor and he saw that, alright, speed is on the way, I should be careful. But this is going to be like a 540 something speed. That is a little quicker than your usual 6-minute speed.
Yeah, this is, you know, normally if this was a 15 hatch build, you've gotten that gas super fast to make the speed work, but
they have to run.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught off guard. I mean, 3 Reapers, if all the Zerglings can get us around, then it's good, but there's still a lot of positioning that they can abuse if they want to stay out on the map. Hearts going straight into Hellions with a starport behind this and 3 command centers. So very few units back home, but these Reapers can still bring the pressure.
Yeah, Zerglings are running across the map. That's going to get difficult for Hard to deal with, but at the same time, HyuN has to worry about his own main base. He loses the Queen. That is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, all those Lynx came home and whoop, right down the cliff. This bad boy's got hops for days.
All right, Hard sees this hatchery go down as well. 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Pretty standard like that. There is the first Roach one of the day, though.
There we go. Can the Roaches bring HyuN back from this 2-1 deficit? That's the magical question of the day, Roddy.
Yep, there are a lot of Zerglings, and the doors are open right now. There are 2 Hellions that could even... Oh, okay,
nice.
Good job there by Hard.
That can get ugly very quickly if you lose those Hellions, and the Reapers will come back too, so you can attack these from both directions. The Reapers can join the Hellions, and you lose just a supply depot. I like Hard's position a lot. And the Banshee, on top of everything, will also give him some good staying power versus the Roaches, as long as he sees them coming far enough ahead in time.
Yeah, I feel there is going to be an interesting engagement at the 3rd hatchery in the near future of HyuN, where of course there will be no creep threat, and it's going to get a little bit difficult for him to stabilize over there, not take too much damage, because with Reapers and 6 Hellions and a Banshee, you can push out a lot of DPS on that hatchery. Armory is going down as well.
And if
HyuN
you're
really
getting
needs
an armory,
Roaches.
man, Hellbats will also be pretty decent fighting on top of his own natural ramp against Roaches, just defensively while that Banshee rolls away.
And a Baneling Nest. Alright. It's super important that he's getting the Roaches, though. Roaches off creep could still be out-microed by Hellions, Reapers, and Banshee, so he still has to be careful about how he wants to engage this army once it starts moving across the map. But it's important that he's getting Roaches, otherwise I think it would have been a nightmare for him to defend that hatchery.
Yeah, that's where things get really complicated. I still think that the setup that HyuN has needs to do damage. He has to actually completely knock
look at
this
22
natural
Zerglings.
down.
Yeah, he's gonna go Roach Bane all the way. Like, I kind of already thought it, but now this is a massive commitment. He's not even going to saturate
He's
that
at
hatch.
35 drones.
Hard just needs a couple of bunkers. He needs to get Marauders. He throws down bunker number 2. Well, it's going to get... I don't know. It's gonna get close, but it all comes down to micro, I guess, in the end. 10 Roaches, 32 Zerglings. Where is that Banshee? Why is it not...
It's been picking off a few Zerglings. Just 2 kills so far.
Maybe could pick off a couple of these Banelings that are rolling in. The Banshee's going to see these Banelings coming. Every Baneling that gets picked off, a difference. Just a single bunker at first. There goes Baneling number 1.
First bunker smashed down. The depots are coming as well. That means the production's cut off. Heart is supply blocked, but without too many more Banelings, those Hellbats just wreck.
Wow, Axiom's Heart makes it look easy over there. Didn't even break a sweat. That Banshee doing quite a bit of work, and now HyuN is in so much trouble. There are no good upgrades for him. These Roaches are too slow to retreat. These Banelings are too slow to retreat as well, so they will get picked off. The only thing he can do, I guess, is counterattack with those Zerglings, because he cannot defend against this army at home.
No.
I think Hart is going to do it. I think for the first time, Nate, in his career. Okay.
Well, HyuN's going to do everything he can to swing this momentum back in his favor.
Oh, that's nice.
Hart's not taking any chances like this. The SCV is like, just run out. Just leave the base, man. We're coming home. Don't worry.
All the Zerglings are going to die, though, and that means that HyuN is even going to have less units at home than he already has normally.
Yeah, you just finish that wall off, and your Marines start coming out. You can't be attacked, and then you go drop the hammer on that 3rd base.
There's so much DPS in this army of Hart now, with those Marauders adding in as well. A few Spore Crawlers going down, I guess, just in case there would be Cloak Banshees. But I'm very worried for HyuN. At least that counterattack bought him some breathing room, because without that counterattack, he would have just had to defend against all these Hellions and Hellbats, and I don't think that he would have ever had the right amount of units to do so. So it is something, and the game will go on for now. But needless to say, Hart must be feeling very good about this game so far.
I mean, look at the upgrades, right? Hart's stim is done. He's getting his barracks production, his reactors finishing up on his starport. He's also going, obviously he's going to be aggressive, but with the upgrades completing, HyuN doesn't even have his lair. He can't get Baneling speed. He doesn't have his 1-1 upgrades, and we already know that Marines are pretty damn good against Zerglings when they're even on ups. When you're ahead, you just shred them.
Yeah, I kind of feel that HyuN is going to have to go all the way now with Roaches, maybe Roach High. No, he's going to get melee upgrades instead. He made all these Roaches, he has a lot of them, and you can hardly say those were just defensive Roach. I guess he needed them in a weird way, but he's just getting a lot of stuff now at once, while he didn't really have a very economic game so far. He's been making nothing but units early on. Opened up with quick speed, made a lot of Zerglings, made a big swell of Roaches and Banelings and more Zerglings. And now he's just throwing down everything at once, and he's starting from scratch again with the Spire, with those melee upgrades. I have a hard time imagining that he's going to be able to get away with all those things. Maybe a small Zergling run.
Ooh, door slammed in your face.
If Zerglings could bounce off that hill, they would have.
But it's good. Those are the types of plays that can allow HyuN to claw his way back into this game. But Hart, he's not missing any of the important, crucial things he needs to do, namely getting the Widow Mines going and also starting those +2 upgrades. The barracks production set up 6 barracks. He could afford to add a few more as he saturates this third base. But everything that he has, like, once you turn all these Hellions into Hellbats, this army becomes very difficult to kill. Even with Ling Roach, you need a ton of Banelings to hit on creep.
Exactly. The only thing that HyuN could hope for is an excellent spread on his Banelings, and then just somehow sort of sandwich this army at Banelings coming from multiple angles, and then get just great connections. That is really what he needs. Baneling speed is about to finish up though, so that's something that he could work with. He also starts +1 flyer attacks already. That gives me the idea that he wants to make Mutalisks for the first time in this series, but he's gonna need all the Banelings he could possibly dream of for now, because this is a pretty intimidating Terran army.
Yeah, lots of Banelings. Baneling speed being complete is so important to note, but Hart's been pretty good at forcing engagements off creep, whether or not the Zerg wants to take them, and that's, you know, that's like
41 Banelings and 1 Mutalisk, Nate.
Yeah.
that is a novel.
One Muta to rule them all. It's not usually not known to be the game changer, the single Muta play.
You might just get that Banshee. Here we go. There are a couple of Widow Mines burrowed as well. The Baneling count is definitely high enough. Normally you would say 41 Banelings. That is a very respectable amount of Banelings. But if they all come from the same angle, I'm a little bit worried, especially with all these Widow Mines that are burrowed so close to this army.
Yeah, this is good bait on a couple of Widow Mine shots. But the problem is, you know, if you're a Zerg player, you're like, well, how do I fight Terran? The answer is never off creep. And the more that Hart can force HyuN to pull off of that creep to defend, the better. The thing is, Hart's not even at one of HyuN's bases. There's no threat to HyuN's economy yet, but he's still fighting over positions where it'll be easier for Hart to attack later.
But that ramp gives access to the bases. So the moment that HyuN loses that space over there, he knows he cannot defend that area anymore. It's just simply impossible. HyuN sending a couple of Banelings to the right side on the high ground. Maybe he can swing them in via that ramp, because he really needs a miraculous Baneling engagement. He really needs the connections that Zerg players dream of.
Yeah, well, the Marines continue to step away and away off of creep. And as long as those guys aren't getting hit by the Banelings, they will kill everything else. Hart continuing to stampede forward towards the third base of HyuN. Only 6 Banelings on the production tab. 3-3 upgrade starting. Banelings canceled. There's once again nothing here for HyuN to stop this army.
The drones are being pulled as well. Widow Mines being burrowed once more. There are a few Banelings and they are just waiting. HyuN is waiting right now. It's like, what is taking so long for these Banelings to morph? I'm afraid it's not going to make the difference anymore.
Yeah, natural cleaned out. The Mutalisks are dead. And Hart is going to go to the grand finals of WCS America. GG!
Excellent performance by the Axiom Terran player. You just kind of felt it coming, Nate. This was his season. You just felt it all along that he was finally going to have that run that he's been dreaming of. He has never made it to the grand finals of a Premier League StarCraft 2 tournament. He must be feeling so extremely good right now. Of course, he's not there yet, but defeating a player of the caliber of HyuN in the semifinals, that's amazing.
And the way he did it, too, just solid play all around. Every game reaching that mid-late stage where you start to see the real difference between the good Terrans and the great Terrans. And a good Terran will have trades back and forth off creep, maybe kill a few drones, go for drop play. Hart focused very little on the drop play. He was all about the engagements, and when you're not flying medevacs all over the map, it's much easier to focus on splitting your Marines. And I think for a player like HyuN, who in a few of those games, Merry-Go-Round, I recall, built spine crawlers at his main base mineral line. He was ready to catch drops. He was ready to receive harass. Hart was having none of it. He just had a bigger army than most Terran players would have, and really focused on those amazing splits that let him sweep every engagement.
Yep, he adapted well to what was going on in the games. He scouted well, he had a good feel. He got, I guess, a little bit surprised on Nimbus, but overall just a really solid series by Hart. Let's take another look at that final engagement. Of course, things were looking good for Hart, and HyuN, he was just hoping, but look at all those Banelings that were coming in from the right side. None of them got close to Marines. Just in the end, one Baneling picked off 2 or 3 Marines, but HyuN needed way more than that. With all those Banelings, you're hoping for big clumps of Marines to die, but that no, Hart had nothing of that. He's like, no, that doesn't really happen when I play this matchup.
It's really easy to get distracted when you're trying to fly medevacs around, you're dealing with the Zergling counterattacks, but even those he responded to very quickly, slamming that depot up just in time to stop those lings, and you don't have too much time to respond to those sorts of plays. Hart was just very, very on top of the few things that he was trying to do, because I still think it's a really interesting, you compare him to other Terran players, like MMA will have medevacs all over the map, but Hart just focused on big, big pushes throughout the game. Kind of little bomber-esque, actually, when you really think about it.
Yeah, like often the pre-engagement is where most of his focus was, where he just set himself up in a position that, with his control, he's not really going to lose the engagement anymore, because he's already, like, these guys, they just read the state of the game so well, and they have excellent game sense. Anyways, I can't wait to hear from Hart how he feels after making it to the finals of his first StarCraft 2 Premier League tournament ever.
Thank you, Roddy. Camdos are here with Hart. You just defeated HyuN in very convincing fashion. And he's a player who had actually defeated you in the round of 32 in Season 2 and the round of 16 in Season 1, and now you've taken your revenge. What was the difference this time you played him versus your past matchups?
김유혁 선수 상대 선적 면으로 봤을 때 특히 WCS에서는 고석현 선수한테 자주 시리즈를 내주고 탈락하는 모습을 많이 보여줬었는데 이번에는 고석현 선수를 누르고 결승에 처음으로 진출하게 되셨습니다. 이제 경기가 계속 진행되는 동안 어떤 생각이 드셨나요?
아무래도 스칼렛이랑은 다르게 석현이 형 굉장히 잘하는 선수이기 때문에 고민을 많이 했는데 그래도 저그저는 자신이 있으니까 저 믿고 했습니다. 네.
스칼렛 선수 디스인가요, 이거는?
노코멘트 하겠습니다.
With all due respect to Scarlett, she's also a very fine player, but playing against her yesterday was less nervous or playing against HyuN today, because HyuN is HyuN, and I'm not trying to disrespect or bad talk Scarlett or anything like that. It's just that's the mentality going into it. And but I try to think of this matchup as not playing against HyuN, but playing against the Zerg. And I'm very confident in my TvZ. So I just try to relax as much as possible, and it just went smoothly.
Now, you're very confident in your TvZ. How are you feeling about your TvT? Because in the grand final, whether Polt or Bomber wins their match, you will be up against a Terran.
자, 대저그전에서는 자신 있다고 하셨는데 결승전은 뭐 어쩔 수 없이 무조건 양쪽에서 누가 올라오든 간에 일단 태태전입니다. 태태전에 대해서 어떻게 생각하십니까?
어떡하죠?
What do I do?
Now, this being the very first time you've ever advanced to a WCS grand final, are you feeling nervous, or what's your general sense right now going into this next match?
WCS도 그렇지만 지금 아예 처음으로 결승을 올라가신 거죠? 네, 이제 처음으로 결승을 올라가신 만큼 어떤 좀 심정이 드시는지 말씀해 주십시오.
딱히 그렇게 막 긴장되지는 않고 두 분 다 제가 한 번씩 다 졌어요 또. 그러니까 이번에 한번 제대로 씹어 먹도록 하겠습니다.
This is in fact my first ever finals in any of the tournaments, let alone just being WCS's finals. Of course I'm a little bit nervous, but I've lost to them, both of them, once previously in WCS. So this time, I think I'm gonna have a feast and show them what I'm made of.
All right. Now, win or lose in the grand final, this is the best tournament run in your career. What does the future hold for you after today?
지금 우승을 하시든 안 하시든 준우승에 머무시든 간에 인생 토너먼트를 하고 계시는데 그 다음은 이제 프로게이머로서 커리어적인 면에서 이제 어떤 식으로 다음 시즌을 맞이하고 하실 계획이 어떻게 되시는지 한번 들어볼게요.
계획은 없고요. 내년에 어떻게 될지 모르겠는데 제가 올해보다 더 열심히 할 수 있다면 보다 더 나은 성적을 올릴 수 있다고 자신합니다. 네.
I don't exactly know what my next year is going to look like. First of all, I haven't really planned much as to which regions or what I'm going to be doing next season, other than the fact that I'll be playing. Given assumptions that I'm provided the same or even better practice environment, I am quite confident myself that next season or next year is going to look a lot better than what I've shown this year.
All right, very good, Hart. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck in the grand final, whoever you may face. I have Josh ready, though, on the main stage, our lovely host. What's going on, Josh?
Thanks, gentlemen. Congratulations again to Hart. I know there's two special people that are very excited about this win. That's John Total Biscuit Bain and his wife, Jenna. Our hearts are with you, John, in your battle against cancer. Get well, my friend. We have a couple announcements today. First of all, BlizzCon. We know the tickets have been sold out. But guess what? The WCS finals are taking place at the arena at the Anaheim Convention Center, which means that we have tickets available. All you have to do is go to the Eventbrite page, search WCS Finals. You'll locate on the page the dates, November 7th and 8th. You can purchase your tickets for $25 and a $2.37 service fee. Buy your tickets today for your chance to see these players in action. HyuN is still in it, and you can cheer for him at the finals. Also, huge thank you to our sponsor, Newegg. Make sure to use the promo code WCSA08 for additional savings on the Dominator MSI notebook that we saw yesterday with our friend Vincent. You can also go to esl.gg/Newegg esports for more information about the products and savings on Newegg, or check out the Twitch page by scrolling down and clicking on one of the vendors. Make sure to hashtag WCS on social media. And also, if you're unable to make it to BlizzCon, you can still support WCS by subscribing to the Twitch channel. Blizzard will be unlocking a very special Gosu trophy in the StarCraft 2 client. You'll receive your promo code if you sign up now during BlizzCon through your Twitch profile. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the second semifinal. Stay tuned.